Jaclyn Smith was the angel who never left. Through 5 years of sudden exits, headline-making lawsuits, and a constant turnover of co-stars, she stood steady, smiling for the cameras and holding the show together. Yet in the autumn of 1977, just weeks into the second season of Charlie's Angels, she filmed an episode that left a mark she never quite shook. The episode was called Angel Flight. On screen, it looked like another glamorous adventure, with Kelly Garrett going undercover as a flight attendant to solve the murder of a stewardess. But behind the camera, nothing felt like the show Jaclyn had signed up for. The cast was still reeling from Farrah Fawcett's abrupt departure. The press circled like hawks, and every scene felt like a test she couldn't afford to fail. Audiences saw a polished hour of television. Jaclyn saw something else entirely. A week weighed down by strained friendships, unspoken fears about the show's future, and the crushing pressure of being the last original angel standing. More than 4 decades later, she still hasn't watched that episode. Back then, Charlie's Angels was no longer just a hit TV series. It had become a cultural phenomenon. The first season had transformed 3 relatively unknown actresses into household names in less than a year. Farrah's feathered hair adorned posters in millions of bedrooms. Kate Jackson's sharp wit grounded the team, and Jaclyn's calm elegance brought warmth and balance. To viewers, the trio seemed perfect. But behind the scenes, cracks were already forming. The first season had been grueling. Long hours, relentless shooting schedules, and endless location work left little time for rest. But that was nothing compared to what came next. Farrah, the breakout star, announced she was leaving after just 1 season. Fans were shocked. The industry was stunned. There were lawsuits, press battles, and non-stop tabloid speculation. Was she chasing movie roles? Was it about money? Whatever the truth, the impact on the cast was immediate. Kate Jackson voiced her frustration openly. Jaclyn, ever diplomatic, kept her feelings private, but she knew the chemistry that defined the show had been altered forever. For ABC, there was only one priority: keep the phenomenon alive. That meant convincing viewers that the Angels were still a team, even if one of them was gone. Behind closed doors, producers debated replacements and rewrote scripts. And Jaclyn found herself in an unfamiliar position: the bridge between the show's past and its uncertain future. Farrah's departure also thrust more responsibility on her shoulders. She now had to carry more storylines, represent the series in interviews, and front promotional campaigns. It wasn't just about acting anymore. It was about holding together an empire. There was no margin for error. If audiences didn't believe in the new version of Charlie's Angels, the entire show could collapse. Season 2 introduced Cheryl Ladd as Chris Monroe, Jill's kid sister, a calculated choice designed to soften the transition. Cheryl wasn't meant to replace Farrah, at least not directly. A younger sister could be embraced with affection rather than compared head to head. On set, Cheryl was warm and eager to fit in, but Jaclyn understood the reality. The public would be watching closely, scrutinizing every interaction, every glance between the new trio. The press headlines framed the season as a trial. Could the Angels survive without Farrah? The answer seemed to depend not just on Cheryl's performance, but on whether Jaclyn and Kate could make the new lineup feel seamless. Early filming revealed the trio's differences. Cheryl was bubbly and lighthearted, Kate was sharp and serious, and Jaclyn, ever the mediator, tried to bridge the gap. She had learned during Season 1 that one careless comment could spark weeks of headlines. But diplomacy came at a cost. Even with her calm demeanor, Jaclyn could feel the tension in the air. Farrah's absence wasn't just a logistical change. It shifted the spotlight. Where the attention had once been shared evenly, it now seemed to swing between Kate's assertiveness and Cheryl's fresh energy. Jaclyn remained the steady center, but she couldn't ignore how the weight of the show's identity was being redefined around her. Producers worked hard to control the narrative. Publicity photos projected harmony. Press interviews were carefully managed, and storylines were designed to showcase all three angels equally, at least on paper. But reality was messier. Some episodes leaned heavily on certain characters, and fans noticed.
Had quietly taken more
Jaclyn
from her
wasn't
than
jealous.
anyone realized.
Her concern was deeper. She bore the quiet responsibility of keeping the peace. She had friendships with both Kate and Cheryl, but their personalities clashed at times. Kate was blunt and outspoken about the show's flaws, while Cheryl avoided conflict but was determined to prove herself, sometimes upsetting the balance Jaclyn worked so hard to maintain. By mid-season, the crew regarded Jaclyn as the glue of the series. She stayed late to reshoot scenes, made an effort to learn every crew member's name, and quietly ensured that everything, from costumes to tone, fit the vision. These weren't headline-grabbing actions, but they kept the production moving. By the time they reached the episode Angel Flight, Jaclyn had already navigated more off-camera negotiations than many actors handle in an entire career. The episode was scheduled early in the season and carried high expectations. The new trio's chemistry would be under a microscope, and everyone knew it. On paper, Angel Flight had everything: glamour, danger, and high-stakes mystery. The angels went undercover as flight attendants to catch a murderer. But the reality of filming was brutal. Most of it took place in and around Los Angeles International Airport, with all the complications that came with it. Every exterior scene drew crowds of photographers hungry for signs of drama. Security restrictions meant filming schedules were tight, leaving almost no room for error. To capture the moody atmosphere of the script, the production added night shoots, pushing the cast and crew into back-to-back 16-hour days. By the third consecutive late night, fatigue was written on everyone's faces. Unlike many Charlie's Angels episodes, Angel Flight had a darker tone. The breezy, campy moments that often balanced the action were gone. Instead, the story carried a sense of betrayal and loss. For Jaclyn, stepping into Kelly Garrett's shoes meant shouldering that heaviness scene after scene. It mirrored what she was feeling off-camera: the tension, the uncertainty, and the constant pressure to hold the show together. In one pivotal scene, Kelly confronts a suspect in a quiet airport lounge, her voice steady while danger lurks beneath the surface. The intensity on screen mirrored the unspoken tension behind the scenes. When the director called cut on that scene, Jaclyn walked silently to her dressing room. She had done her job flawlessly, but the emotional toll was catching up. Even Cheryl, usually bubbly, sensed Jaclyn needed space and kept her distance. Kate, ever perceptive, checked in but didn't press. Jaclyn's quiet retreat wasn't about drama, it was survival. She needed that silence to keep the weight from showing in her performance. By the end of the week, the lights felt harsher, the hours longer, and the set colder. When filming wrapped, Jaclyn delivered exactly what the episode required. On screen, Kelly Garrett looked poised, determined, and unbreakable. Off-screen, Jaclyn felt exhausted in a way that went beyond long hours. She had given the show everything it needed, but she couldn't bear to revisit that week. Watching the episode would mean reliving the pressure, the uncertainty, and the private cost of holding the series together. To this day, she has never seen Angel Flight. When the episode aired in October 1977, audiences loved it. Ratings stayed strong, critics praised the new lineup, and the episode was proof that Charlie's Angels could survive Farrah's exit. On paper, it was a triumph. But for Jaclyn, it wasn't a piece of entertainment. It was a sealed chapter of her life. That week was one of the most publicly scrutinized periods in the show's history. Every offhand remark could become a headline. Every glance between cast members was dissected for signs of tension. And Jaclyn bore the brunt of ensuring the public never saw the cracks. The darker tone of Angel Flight, combined with the relentless schedule, made it one of the hardest shoots of her career. Years later, she admitted privately that some episodes were easy to leave behind at the end of the day. Angel Flight wasn't one of them. The emotions clung to her long after filming wrapped. Watching it would mean seeing not just Kelly Garrett on screen, but her own exhaustion staring back. She had no need to revisit that. Decades later, Charlie's Angels is remembered as a glossy, glamorous symbol of late 1970s television. Its influence continues to this day through reboots, films, and endless homages. And through it all, Jaclyn Smith remains the face most associated with the original series, the angel who stayed when others left. Her refusal to watch Angel Flight doesn't diminish her legacy. It deepens it. It shows that some memories belong to the person who lived them, not to the audience. Her former co-stars have spoken warmly about her grace and diplomacy. Cheryl credits Jaclyn for helping her transition into the show. Kate has acknowledged that Jaclyn's steadiness kept the series from fracturing. The crew always knew it. Jaclyn wasn't just performing. She was holding everything together. Her choice not to revisit Angel Flight is an act of self-preservation, a private boundary in a career lived largely in public. Actors often separate themselves from difficult projects, not because the work was bad, but because revisiting them would reopen old wounds. For Jaclyn, that week in 1977 was a turning point, a time of transition and quiet uncertainty. Watching it would bring all of that back. And she doesn't need to. Generations of fans have seen Kelly Garrett unravel a murder mystery at 30,000 feet without ever knowing the real story behind those scenes. To them, it's another example of Jaclyn's poise and quiet strength. And perhaps that's exactly how she wants it remembered, not as a record of her private struggles, but as part of the show's legacy. In interviews, Jaclyn has always spoken with gratitude. Gratitude for the opportunity, for the friendships, and for the fans who still approach her decades later with memories of watching the Angels with their families. She doesn't dwell on the difficulties. She protects the magic of the show. And that's why Angel Flight remains unwatched. Not out of bitterness, but because some memories are best preserved in the heart, rather than on a screen. Jaclyn Smith's legacy isn't defined by the episodes she avoided. It's defined by the grace with which she carried herself through all of them. She stayed when others left. She upheld the spirit of the Angels. And she remains, to this day, the angel who never fell from grace.